Hey everyone, this is Jackson Glass here in Hollywood, California, in my beautiful room/studio, and I'm here today to talk about 5 simple ways that you can make a better mix today. Just simple things that I've learned over the years, nothing complicated, but I hope it'll help some people. My first tip is that you should always use volume as your go-to solution for any problem you have. Before panning, before effects, compression, before EQ, which people especially abuse, try volume. Just raise the track on whatever track you're having a problem with. See if that doesn't help, and if it doesn't, you should be lowering tracks around it, tracks that are conflicting with it. It's the most powerful tool you have in your DAW. Use it as your gut reaction to every problem, period. And if you're having extreme mix problems, your whole mix is a mess, try this. Do a save as of your mix, so in case you fuck up, and drop all your tracks to a 0 and spend 20 to 30 minutes making a new mix, and just use your gut reaction. Don't use your intellect, use your instinct, your intuition, your gut reaction to things. Do it real quickly, right away, boom, boom, boom for every track, set the volume, and set a timer, and when it goes off, that's it, your mix is done. 50% of the time I find that this is a better mix than the one I've been struggling with, which is really sad, but it's a really powerful thing when it does work out. I would definitely suggest it. My second tip is to always cut out your lows on everything you can. If it's not a bass, a sub, your kick, you don't need lows on it. So put your filter on, whatever you like to use. Some people like really steep filters at lower settings. Some people like roll-offs at higher settings, whatever. I personally use a 12 dB filter, and the trick is you roll it as high as you can without cutting into the body or the character of the sound. So as soon as you start hearing the sound getting a little thinner, a little higher pitched, a little harsher, you've gone a little too far, kick it back a little bit and leave it right there. It's perfect. Do that for every single track you have, every single one, even if it's just a hi-hat, everything. And if you're having a lot of problems with the highs, you don't need any information above 10,000 hertz for most tracks. So I would suggest cutting those off too whenever you can. It worked for Jimmy, it worked for the Beatles. Mid-range is the most important part of your song, so try to do that. It's really helpful. And let's see, use automation is my next tip. Use automation on everything you can, absolutely everything, from reverb to EQ, volume, panning, effects, anything. Automate it. It keeps your ear interested. It makes songs more complex than they really are, or appear to be more complex than they really are. Even if you have a simple song that is like kick, snare, hi-hat, lead, automate the, let's say like the hi-hat, something I always do. If it's at 11, I automate it throughout the whole song, so it'll go from like 11 to like 13, then to like 8, and then back to 11 throughout the course of the entire song. So you do those little things, and you do a lot of them, keeps you interested, makes your song sound larger than life. It's really a good tip. I would highly recommend that one. Tip number 4 is to delete it. If you're having any problems with it and it's just too much of a mess or a hassle, it's not worth it. Delete it, whatever it is. If it's a single note in a loop, delete it. If you can't decide whether you like it or not, delete it. If it's an effects and you like both with the effect on and off, you're deciding whether you want it, either automate it or just delete it. You don't need it. If it's a whole track, you don't need it. If it's a whole song, if you're having too many problems with it, just delete it. It's okay, it's just music. And in the long run, it'll really help out. Your master compressor won't have to work as hard. You won't get as much clutter that builds up over the long run in your song. Don't be afraid to delete things. Be selective, because you're worth it, and your song's worth it. And my last tip is to use proper gain stages, which is something a lot of people don't do, and something it took me a while to figure out, which means basically your volume needs to be as loud as possible throughout your whole track until it gets to the fader, and the fader is where you want to bring things down. Your volume should be as loud as possible without clipping on every track until the very end. So you don't want, one thing that really annoys me about Ableton is that when you put on a simpler with like a drum sound or whatever, it automatically puts it at -12, which I think is really stupid. You should have it turn to like -2 or 0, which is where I usually put it, so it can be as loud as possible throughout the whole stage. And then on your fader is where you should be turning things down. It'll get you the best, highest quality possible sound every time. But just make sure you're not clipping things. If, let's say, you're cutting out the lows on the EQ, usually it'll clip it if it's really high, because sounds get louder once you take out the lows. So make sure you turn down your EQ so it's not clipping afterwards. Doing this will get you a better quality mix all the time, I highly recommend it. So leave some comments, ask questions. Let's all talk and discuss. If you guys have anything you want to talk about or anything you want to talk to me about, we're all in this together. So yeah, have a good night. Hope to hear from you guys soon.